What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Trill Adventures channel. Today we're gonna do something a little bit different. I guess we've done something like this similar in the past, but today we're going to cook rockfish tacos, and I'm gonna bring you guys along with me for that. So these are fresh rockfish that I caught last season. You can't really beat home caught rockfish. However, whenever I fillet my rockfish just throughout time, I usually leave scales on it. So what I'm going to do, I usually leave the skin and the scales on it. So first and foremost, I'm going to have to skin these. And like that, we have a nice, clean fillet. Now that our rockfish is skinned, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the skin, of course, and rinse the rockfish fillets. Up, you want to make sure that you got all the scales, all the skin off. If you're going to do any more cutting with your knife, you want to make sure you rinse it off, because it'll just put more scales onto the rinsing that you just did. Personally, there's pin bones from the ribs in these rockfish that I usually cut out because I don't like the fool. Usually, I would assume if somebody has rockfish, they're kind of used to cooking with it and they have their own preference. But if you don't, usually you can just kind of feel in there with your fingers and you will find those pin bones. Once you've either picked all those pin bones out of there or cut them out, now the thing is, if you're going to do rockfish tacos like we're doing, what I like to do is cut these into small pieces. However, the rockfish tacos that I use, I like the street style tacos. So the small ones, I like to just cut them into little cutlets. So rockfish also just so happens to be my favorite fish to eat in Alaska. I know most people's is halibut, which, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy halibut, but I do think halibut is entirely overrated. Rockfish is my favorite to cook. For so many reasons. One, it's not so thick of a slab once you have a fillet that you have to worry about cooking the moisture out of it. And that's, you know, if you're gonna be grilling it or something like that. Another reason is it's very easy to cook your seasonings and your flavorings into the rockfish. So now that we got our rockfish all cut up, I am going to go ahead and clean up our cutting board. One thing about rockfish is that compared to other fish from up here in Alaska, it freezes for probably the least amount of length of time. It's usually good frozen up to about, I'd say about 6 months. So what I'm gonna do here is say hey, say hi. Hello. Say hi. Does not like the camera.
She said absolutely not.
Why'd you do that? Goofy. So what I like to do is I like to space them out on the tray to where I can season them all evenly. Now the thing is, I am frying these rockfish, so I am going to partially season the flour or the fry that I'm going to use, and I'm gonna partially season the fish. And I'm gonna show you guys how I like to do that. Now that I can do all of them together. I like to start with a little bit of garlic, and you'll see why I say just a little bit, and a little bit of onion. We're only going to use a little bit right now because some ground thyme. I like to use no more than maybe a half a teaspoon. Maybe a full teaspoon depending on the amount of fish that you're seasoning. Just enough to give it a nice little layer over the top. Paprika. And I like to use the paprika very sparingly. Just little dashes here and there. And some Old Bay. I use Old Bay on a lot. Chicken, shrimp, really most seafoods. And I am going to do a half a teaspoon of oregano. Now that we got our fish all seasoned up, we're going to go ahead and season our fry. Now if you fish fry often, you should have an idea of how you like to season them. However, you're more than welcome to try what I'm doing. But you usually know about how much you need and about how much seasonings you should put. I've got probably about this much in a big bowl. I'd say that's a couple of cups. What I like to do is take these slappy mamas, pour 4 Tonys. I prefer Slappy Mamas. And very nicely sprinkle some on there. Just give it a nice top layer. You gotta think that's a lot of fry, right? Just cover that top a little bit. You're gonna wanna take your pepper. Make sure you don't use your pepper sparingly. However, whenever it comes to your salt, you do want to use it sparingly. A little bit of salt goes a long way. Now that you got your fry all seasoned, you've got your fish all seasoned, so what you're going to want to do, a couple of cloves of garlic, get you a few pieces of onion. I like purple onion, and then some white onion. What we're going to want to do with those is just dice them up as thin as you prefer. Alright guys, once you've got those all diced up, go ahead and just scrape them all into a pot. Small one, doesn't need to be a big one. Go ahead and throw a nice little healthy scoop of coconut oil in there with it. And what I like to do is, I'm just gonna very slowly bring it up to temp. So I'm gonna start at like a 3.5 on the burner. So as that coconut oil starts to melt down in there, we're just gonna slowly start turning up the heat. So I'm up to like a 4.5 now. Just keep slowly bringing it up to heat.
My favorite place. Coastal wine, happy life. Bare feet walking that shoreline. Good old boat, dog riding high on the bow. Tongue out catching that sunshine. Fish fry crackling, smoke in the sky. Cozy cold, that beer on ice, yeah.
Alright guys, and for our sides, we're gonna do fried shiitake mushrooms and sauteed asparagus. What I like to do is I like to take these mushrooms and cut them into a relatively thin layer, almost like a chip. Very small pieces. I say very, but about this much. Just little stems.
Breeze popping, old stories grow tall. Moon climbing up while the night birds call. She leans in close, whispers, ain't this nice? Dog curls up under neon fireflies.
I'm gonna come over here. I've got an empty pot or pan, whatever your preference is. I'm gonna drop I don't know, maybe a tablespoon and a half of butter in there. I'm gonna put it at about medium, about halfway. We're gonna take our asparagus and just drop it right in there with that. We're gonna throw a little bit of onion powder on it. A light sprinkle of salt. A nice, easy coating of pepper. And a little drizzle of garlic. Now that that butter's nice and melted in there, and I've got the seasonings all mixed up, I'm gonna drop my temperature to just above low. I'm gonna leave some vent ports in the side of the pot. I'm gonna let it sit for a while. Just let it cook and steam. Every now and then come in and stir it up. So now guys, what you're gonna wanna do is get a little bowl, grab your mustard, and grab your mayonnaise. You're gonna take about a tablespoonful of mayo, maybe 2. Two and a half. Throw throw it in the bottom of this bowl. I'm going to ask my sweet, lovely assistant if she would use her fingernails to pull this cap off.
Take-Down. Good.
Thank you, ma'am. We're gonna want to give just a nice little layer in there, just a nice little sprinkle. Go ahead and mix it up real nice. Throw a little bit more in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our mushroom chips, drop them in there. And just stir them around a little bit, get them nice and coated up with that mayo mustard mix. Add mustard as you need. You don't want too much mustard to where you're finding the mushrooms in your sauce. And you really just want a thin layer of mustard just to help the fry stick. Now what you're gonna want to do is take some more of your fish fry, or flour if you prefer. Put it in a separate container. And what you're going to want to throw in there some salt, a little bit of onion, and these, you're gonna want to go ahead and mix that up real nice and well. Now you're gonna want to take your two skillets, and of course you're gonna want to put some grease into them. You're going to want to go ahead and get those up and started. Now I'm going to start taking these onions and garlic and I'm going to start slowing down the saute of them. The way that I like to test my grease to see if it's ready is I'll take a pinch of flour or fish fry, sprinkle it in there. If it bubbles, then it's ready. You want to keep those asparagus just nice slow cooking. Keep that lid on there, take it off to stir them every now and then. What I like to do is if you're using a lid, come in and throw them around sometimes. Keep stirring these until they simmer real well. Now I'm going to take, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more of butter. And I'm going to throw it into a microwavable safe bowl. And I'm going to put it into the microwave until all of this butter is melted down. Now that our onions and garlic is nice and sauteed up, nice and simmering, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it down to low. I'm gonna add a nice couple of squirts of lemon juice and a nice couple of squirts of lime juice. Now remember, you are sizzling, so it is going to sizzle in the bottom of that pot. Take that juice and those onions and that garlic and mix it around real nice. Leave it on there, you know, just kind of still slow cook it for a little bit. And I'm going to take our lid off of our asparagus. I'm going to go ahead and set it aside for now because we don't need it anymore. Sounds like one of our grease is ready to start frying. So I'm going to go ahead and take our fish, put it in our fish fry. Now I just want to batter it up real well. If you fry fish, you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah. Running back, my heart, I give you that.
And I'm just gonna, one by one, get them all nice and coated and drop them into the grease.
The only truth my ways grateful. My love for you is beautiful. You're my sun and my moon too. You were gone, now you're renewed. My heart, it won't deflate. I got faith, my nigga, it won't break. I know you're my fate, our love is never late. The only one I know is you, and all you gotta know is this. My love is beautiful. You're my sun and my moon too. You were gone, now you're
You're gonna wanna make sure all of those fish are in there and they're nice and submerged. If you can't get them all in there in one, and get them nice and submerged to where they're all frying, you probably either want to start another fry or just do them a few at a time. Now we're going to come back to our juice and our onions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that mustard, just a little bit in there, right? Get it all nice and mixed up with the other juices. Now we're going to want to take our mushrooms and do the same thing that we just did with our fish. Go ahead and throw them in that batter. Mix them around, get them all nice and battered up.
You're my sun and my moon too. You were gone, now you know. Don't know. Don't you make me feeling anyway. Don't walk away. I wasn't running, babe. But what I know.
Now that we've got everything frying, once you've got those onions and all of those juices nice and mixed up, like I said, you want it just low enough to be simmering in the pot. Keep these nice slow sauteing.
We never talk. I think we both
Now you're gonna wanna take whatever your favorite taco seasoning is, or just a generic, that's what I'm going with. You wanna just pour just enough in there to layer over everything else. Give it a nice mix. Now you want to set it to simmer just a little bit more. I'd say 2.5, 3. Just let that cook for a little bit. So at the end of it all, that's what you got. Fried rockfish, fried shiitake mushrooms, special taco sauce,